Hello, and welcome to the Journal Star Sportswriters podcast. I'm your host, Adam Duvall, joined always by large school football beat writer Dave Reynolds, small school football writer Stan Morris. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to be back.
We're on Facebook Live, just in case anyone wants to drop in, leave us a comment or a question, and we'll be sure to answer you. Can't believe it's already Week 7.
This is going fast.
Week 7 already. Yeah.
Wow.
How about that?
Let's dive in first of all. Week 6 recap. Stan, you were north of Peoria. You were at Princeville and stopped by Chillicothe to see the Ghost. Tell me what you saw over in Princeville.
Yeah, I tell you what, I stopped by first Princeville, and Carter Johnson scored a couple quick touchdowns. They got off to a really good start, and I had the running game going, so I kind of figured that was going to be their forte, kind of keep the running game going and keep on going. But after I leave there, Sam Street Matter throws for 230 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Oh, wow.
That's actually the most passing yards that any quarterback for John Carruthers. He's been there since 2011 as the head coach, and that's the most yards that a quarterback has thrown there. Princeville is normally, run, and maybe throw it a few times a game. But, 230 and 4, so that was a pretty impressive night for him. And Carter Johnson still had 180 yards rushing, so they won big. Beat Mid-County 40-0. A lot of 40-0 type games over this past weekend. So I go to Princeville and get there and don't even get quite onto the field where I hear that Alex Merlot was throwing a touchdown pass to Cam Wallard for 64 yards, goes for a touchdown, and that's 35-0 right there. As soon as I get there, it's 35-0 right before the half, and start into the second half, and Keyshawn Hobson takes the kickoff back 90 yards for a touchdown, 89 yards for a touchdown, and all of a sudden you got a running clock going there, and on Rantoul's next possession, Sam Stoneking gets a interception and takes it back for another touchdown. So they're up 49-0 on their way to 6-0, qualifying for playoffs.
So you saw a receiving touchdown, a kickoff touchdown, a pick six within a matter of on clock time, 5-6 minutes,
5
seconds. 5-6 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so they had it rolling pretty good, and then qualified for the playoffs now at 6-0, and they're pretty excited. They got a big game coming up this weekend. So.
Dave, you saw a pair of games. You were over in Bartonville. You saw Limestone and Canton, and then you saw the second half of Pekin, Washington. What'd you see out of the Little Giants there in the first half that you liked?
Well, I'd seen them earlier in the season against Morton, and they are a big, bruising, ground-oriented team. They don't throw much, but, they get it done on the ground. A lot of misdirection stuff, and they were following that to a T on Friday. First 2 possessions, they just long drives and scored both times. And when I left, it was 16-0, and they went on to a 30-14 win over the Rockets on Limestone's homecoming night. So, Canton is 4-2 now. They were 1-8 last year, so they've really turned things around. It's they're, a real player in the league this year. So, then moving on to Pekin, when I got there it was 7-7 at halftime, Pekin and Washington, and Pekin came out in the second half and kind of took control of that game. Wyatt Van Ness and Sebastian Hill hooked up twice for touchdown passes, and they just, Washington did score once in the third, and they scored late, but it was a very un-Washington-like team in some ways from recent years. A lot of turnovers. They turned the ball over 4 times. A lot of penalties, 115 yards worth, and down the stretch they had a drive going that was stalled by personal foul and sportsmanlike conduct. Very, like I said, not like the Panthers you're used to seeing, not that disciplined. So Pekin wins 26-21, third win in a row for the Dragons, which after starting out 0-3, that's quite a statement to turn around and win 3 in the league. So they're 3-1 and one game behind Dunlap as we head down the stretch.
Okay, and I round out our coverage. I was over in Morton at Carper Field, and Morton won 35-7 over Metamora. I thought it was going for the all-time record for least amount of points scored in that series. Came back in the 50s when Morton actually won 7-0. Ended up being 35-7, and Seth Glatz just went crazy. 35 carries, 316 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had he had a 58-yard and a 68-yard, and
he's only a sophomore.
Only a sophomore, yeah. He was really, really impressive, and that knocks Metamora back to 3-3 in the league, 3-3 overall. They're 2-2 in the league. That log jam there in the middle line that we'll talk about a little bit later, but impressive performance from Morton on their home field on their homecoming night. Stan, real quick, anything else on Week 6 that stood out to you?
Well, you got some teams going to 6-0, 5-1. Farmington going to 5-1. They win 40-0. Josh McMillan throws for over 300 yards, so they had the passing game really going that night. Eureka goes to 5-1. 45-0 over El Paso Gridley. Aiden Sears with 3 touchdowns and Matt Martin with 4 touchdowns passing. So, they had a great night. Fieldcrest was our number 1 ranked team going up against DMAC, and they go 42-6 and win that game to go to 6-0. So, and then, I got to give a little bit of love to some of those other area teams. Anawan Weathersfield goes to 6-0 too. They won 42-0. Again, with the 40-0 in Knoxville.
Right.
Knoxville goes to 6-0. They win 50-0 over Abington Avon. They've been they've outscored their opponents 255-22 so far this year for Knoxville. So that's an impressive start for them. Closest game was Elmwood Brimfield. And who did they play?
Rushville.
Yeah, Rushville. Yeah, Rushville. Elmwood Brimfield scored 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes of the game to pull within 30-28, but wasn't able to get a 2-point conversion to tie the game and send it in overtime. So they fall to 2-4, which is uncharacteristic of Elmwood.
Big game with Farmington coming up this week. Dave, finally, over on the Big 12 side, we had 2 games in the city, one Thursday night, Peoria High and Richwoods, and then Friday night, Notre Dame and Manual. Yeah,
both of them were blowout games. Peoria High 44-14 over Richwoods, and then Notre Dame took care of Manual 63-14, although that game was 14-14 at one point. So the Irish, soon took command there. So, just in terms of, I don't know if you want to get into the Mid-Illini standings later, or you want to touch on that now.
You know what? We'll get in that when we go to look ahead to Week 7.
Okay.
I'm going to jump down real quick. Right before we got on, again, the state ranks came out. 6A, Peoria High received votes. 5A, Dunlap received votes. 4A, IVC received votes. And 3A, Eureka and Princeton actually flip-flopped. Eureka was 9 last week. They're 10 this week. Princeton was 10 last week. They're 9 this week. In 2A, Fieldcrest is number 1. Knoxville is number 6. And in 1A, Anawan Weathersfield is 4. And Princeville received votes. So, moving on to our next segment, fantasy football. This week's winner, drum roll please, Stan Morris. Stan had 68.41 points. Alex Merlot had 203 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and 6 rushing yards for 16.21 points. Cole Watkins of Washington had 121 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns, good enough for 24.1 points. Alex Fulton of IVC had 52 rushing yards with 2 touchdowns, 49 receiving yards, and a touchdown for 28.1 points. Stan, you are overall in 3rd place with 245.39 points. All right. Dave Reynolds, our overall leader, He had 50.
Never thought I'd hear those words.
Yeah, I know. This is just, it's collusion. 58.5 points last week. Jackson Chatterton had 142 passing yards with 2 touchdowns and 29 rushing yards with another touchdown. That gave him 27 points. Quentin Folks of Farmington had 11 rushing yards and a touchdown for 7.1 points. Cam Woolard got a second opportunity for Dave. Had 124 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns for 24.4 points. Again, Dave is our overall leader. He has 335.4 points.
Nice job.
Thank you.
Way to go. Leading in the overall picks on Friday nights, too.
Yeah, he is. Wow. Dave's just been...
I've been doing my homework.
Going on.
Unbelievable. And I was bringing up the rear this week. Jackson Chatterton, like I said, he had 27 points. I went with the Metamora stack. Zach Poston, he had 32 rushing yards, -3 receiving yards for 2.9 points. Ryan Bagol had a one carry for a negative yard rushing. He had 40 receiving yards and a touchdown for 9.9 points. I'm coming in second place, just at edging Stan out, 268.83 points.
That could all change next week, right?
It could.
Absolutely.
That's the trend. So, Dave, you are the leader.
For now.
For now, who is your quarterback for Week 7?
Let's see what we got here. I went with Colton Quagliano from Anawan Weathersfield.
Okay.
All right.
I think he's having a pretty good season.
Not bad at all.
Great season.
Really good season. Yeah.
Stan, how about you?
I am actually going the same route. I went off the area team.
You can't copy me just because I'm in first place. You can't gain points doing that.
Got to find out some more points somewhere else, though.
And I'm going to take Brady Klein of Washington.
Okay.
He had a good game rushing and good game passing last weekend. Hopefully, he can carry that over into their meeting with Canton. Stan, running back. Who are you going with?
I'm going Hunter Gladson, Eureka.
Hunter Gladson.
Get in the end zone a few times for me and get over 100 yards.
Okay. Your leader, Dave Reynolds.
I am going with Seth Glatz from Morton, 316 yards.
See if he can duplicate that again.
4 touchdowns, can't be wrong. I mean, I feel a little bit like I'm chasing a hot stock, though. You know, you don't know if you're 1 week too late.
I'm going with the Washington stack. I'm sticking with Cole Watkins in the backfield. Have not used him yet, so I'm gonna try him out.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, let's go back to you. Who's your wide receiver?
I was impressed with Sebastian Hill from Pekin last week, so I'll pick him.
Okay. Stan, how about you?
I am going Corbin Rutledge, Farmington. Had a nice one this past weekend. It's been a good, putting up some good numbers this year so far.
Dave, I'm copying you. I'm going Sebastian Hill from Pekin.
Okay.
So those are our fantasy picks for Week 7. Dave Reynolds is our leader. Mm-hmm. And move on to our next segment. One thing, stat, quote, note from Week 6 that stood out to you. You know what? I'm going to start with mine.
Go for it.
9.0. That's yards per carry for Morton running back Seth Glatz in the 35-7 win over Metamora. He finished with 316 yards on 35 carries with 4 touchdowns. So, pretty impressive night for Seth.
Mm-hmm.
Stan, how about you? What was your one thing?
I'm going with a couple numbers, 45 and -18. 45 is the yards that Cade Gold kicked field goal for Eureka. That's a school record. Congrats to Cade on that for 45-yard field goal in the fourth quarter of Eureka's game last weekend. And Eureka held El Paso Gridley to -18 rushing yards last weekend. So that's very impressive defense. That's their second shutout and third shutout of the year. So.
And no JS Jinx. We had Jason Bachman on the Coach's Corner on Thursday.
They only gave up 35 total yards in the whole game again.
Turns around. Great defensive effort.
Yeah.
Dave, give me your one thing.
I'll go with the number one. If you're looking for one reason why Pekin has won 3 games in a row, they've only made one total turnover in the last 3 games in which they've won. So that's obviously the rest of their game has been pretty solid too. Their offensive line and defense in particular, but being able to hold on and protect that ball has been a real key for them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So looking ahead to Week 7, we have Champaign Central at Peoria High, Manual at Normal West, Richwoods at Urbana on Friday night. On Saturday night, we have Bloomington and Notre Dame at the Stadium. That's in the Big 12. In the Middle-Illini, we have Dunlap at Limestone, Morton at East Peoria, Pekin at Metamora, and Washington at Canton. Dave, where do you want to start?
Yeah, we can start with the Big 12 games. I'll go with Peoria High 48-28 over Champaign Central.
We're making picks?
You just want to talk about it?
Yeah, we're just talking. We're just talking now. We'll get to picks
showed my hand there.
Okay. Now we know a little. Okay.
We'll get to picks in a minute. Yeah. We're just going to look ahead to Week 7.
Yeah. Bloomington and Notre Dame should be a good game. I think that they've only played each other once before, and that was last year, and Bloomington won 46-28. They've been an okay team this year. I think Notre Dame's playing better right now, so that will be a good one at the stadium on Saturday night. Middle-Illini talk now.
Let's go Middle-Illini.
All right. Well, Dunlap's at Limestone, and if Dunlap, which is 4-0 in the league, can win this game, and if Pekin loses, Dunlap will clinch a tie for the Middle-Illini title.
At least a share of the title.
And this is the interesting part of that. Dunlap won the Middle-Illini 2 years ago, 2017, went on to the state championship game.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only time they've won the Middle-Illini in their 20 years in the league. Canton's won once. All the rest have been to Metamora and Washington, which is probably no surprise.
Right.
But Metamora's won 12 outright, won and shared once with Washington. Washington's won 5. So just to follow up on that dominance that the Redbirds and the Panthers have shown, they both lost on Friday night. It's the first time they both lost a league game on the same night since 2003.
Wow.
So
nice. That was the year that Canton won the league.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So interesting fun fact there.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Staying on the small school side, we have IVC at St. Joe Ogden, Princeville at Stark County, Farmington at Elmwood Brimfield, Bushnell versus Heights Quest at Bushnell, Fisher at DMAC, and Tremont at Eureka.
Yeah.
Where are you headed this week?
I will be heading to Eureka. Going to catch Tremont and Eureka. That'll be a fun little HOI crossover there. Tremont is leading the small side of the HOI, and Eureka certainly is right there in the HOI large at 5-1. Last year Eureka won this one 36-6. Like we've talked about, their defense has just been fantastic here lately. In the last since losing to GCMS, they've outscored their 4 opponents 114-7. So, so they've had 3 shutouts and 3 shutouts on the year, but 2 in that span. But and they'll have to try to kind of contain Caden Buster for Tremont, and so I'm looking forward to a good game there in Eureka.
Stan, give me 1 or 2 more games that stand out to you.
Well, normally we'd be talking about the big Farmington-Elmwood clash. I mean, the last 6 years, that game has determined the conference title. But this year, unfortunately, with Elmwood losing its last 3 games, they're coming in 2-4, which they haven't seen that kind of since about 2009. They went 1-8, and then they bounced back and went 6-3 after that, and they've been a perennial playoff team. So Farmington can clinch. If they win, Farmington can clinch their 4th consecutive Prairie Land Blue unbeaten conference title. So they've got 20 straight right now, win streak in the conference, and so they're looking to make that 21. So, but I mean, the big game obviously for IVC going to St. Joe, and so St. Joe up perennial power. St. Joe has been up there in state title games, have been in state title games before, but IVC, they do have things clicking. They went up to Tolono Unity, another power, won that one by 1 in week 1, and they feel pretty good about where they're situated right now. Prairie Central St. Joe's lost last week to Prairie Central by 33-13, I believe. And that's a team that IVC beat pretty handily, 27-7. So we'll see if they can kind of match that and keep up. It's always tough going on the road in a place like that. But obviously that'll be a big game for them when they're going to try to go for a conference title now.
Okay. Well, that's your look ahead to week 7. Dave was real anxious to get his picks and let everybody know that he's winning and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. So we're going to move on to week 7 picks. First one, Pekin at Metamora. Both teams 3-3. Pekin's 3-1 in the league. Metamora's 2-2. Dave, go ahead.
That's going to be a good game.
Yeah.
Metamora's not as strong as they've been, but they're still Metamora, and they still got some talent, and they're at home. So, all that said, I'm picking Pekin 21-14. The Dragons have shown they're for real, and I think they're on a real roll right now.
Okay, Stan, how about you?
I think I agree with that. It's hard to pick against Metamora at Metamora, but Pekin's on a roll. I'd say 21-20 though. We'll make that an extra point here or there.
I'm going. I gotta make up some ground.
Or fall further behind.
I'm going Pekin. 28-24. Should be a good one. Malone Field hopefully has recovered from that mud bowl against Dunlap almost 2 weeks ago. So Malone Field, hopefully that's all situated, good to go. All right, Stan, the game you're covering, Tremont at Eureka. I covered actually this game last year over in Tremont, and Eureka was pretty dominant. You expect more of the same?
I expect Eureka to do quite well in this game, and Tremont certainly has their hands full defensively against some pretty high-powered offense. It's really starting to get moving right now. I can see Eureka winning this one. I'll just stay at 35-7. Not 35-14. We'll give Tremont
35-14.
Yeah.
Okay. Dave, how about you?
I got Eureka 29-18.
29-18. Cade Gold, he'll have at least 2 field goals.
Yeah.
38-8. Eureka.
Okay.
All right, final one, the tiebreaker of the week. Before we go to that, last week all of us went 1-2 overall. Dave is 14-4 and tied with Stan at 14-4, and I am 12-6. But that's okay. All right,
A few more weeks.
IVC at St. Joe for the tiebreak. Dave, you're the leader in the paper, the co-leader on the podcast.
I got to go with the Ghosts. 24-21. That should be a great game.
24-21.
I think they can do it.
Stan, how about you?
I'm going Ghosts. Like I say, they've got it rolling. I'll say 28-21.
28-21.
We know who you're taking.
Come on, guys. IVC. I'm going 35-13.
Wow.
Whoa. Okay. A statement game by
35-13.
7-0.
Absolutely. All right, before we close out, we'll give you each guy 45 seconds to discuss whatever they want to talk about on their beats. Stan, let's start with you. 45 seconds your way.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna look at some 8-man this week.
Okay.
So I'm gonna be featuring Low Point. They, like I mentioned last week, they got their first win a couple of weeks ago, and they're facing a team that they played this past week. And North Fulton, actually, another team that's an 8-man. They won 2 games last week. They played on Monday. They beat Elgin and Westminster Christian 39-9 on Monday, and then they beat Champaign Judah Christian 38-0 on Friday. So they were 0-4 going in, and 1 week they've won 2 in a row. So
wow, pretty impressive. Okay, Stan, thank you. Dave, your 45 starts now.
I'll yield some of my time to the chairman, but I just wanted to mention I will be at the Dunlap Limestone game. This was a tough week to choose where to go, but just anxious to see the Eagles, and that's not always the easiest place to play, and they haven't been blowing people out. I mean, they beat East Peoria. I got to give EP some props last week, 42-28. That game was relatively close. So, but if indeed Dunlap can win, and I don't know, it'd take it kind of an upset by Metamora to knock off Pekin. So we'll see. We might have a title clinching on Friday night by the Eagles, at least for a tie. So I want to be there for that if that happens. So that's
all
what
right.
I got.
Dave, thank you. Look for features. Stan, you said you had one on Low Point coming?
Yes, I'll be on Saturday.
Dave, do you have?
I'm doing something on Seth Glatz.
Glatz.
For Friday.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. And we'll have a Coach's Corner tomorrow night?
Yes, on Tim Briley from Morton.
Tim Briley from Morton. Okay, so look for Stan's story, Dave's podcast, his Chalk Talk, his Coach's Corner. Look for all of our coverage online at pjstar.com /sports. We're on Twitter at pjstar Sports. Join the conversation. Add the hashtag PGS Preps to your tweets. For Stan Morris, Dave Reynolds, I'm Adam Duvall. Bye for now.
All right.